only to feel so helpless. But friends, look at where you are. Look at where you started. You made it here to the last act. You did it day after day. You made the choice to rise up and give yourself another chance to start over every single morning. And for me, I sang like my life was a Tony Award-winning Broadway musical. And believe me, you did not throw away your shot, because if you graduated having completed most of your coursework from the comfort of your own bed staring into your laptop, you made it. I see you. If you graduated having spent all hours of the day in the library or evenings in coffee shops, you made it. I see you. Or if you are anywhere in between, you made it. I see you. There is everyday human experiences that give weight and substance to the certificate you're about to receive. Every sacrifice, every bit of energy you drag out of you every morning, even if all you managed to do was scratch the bare minimum, you are here today. You're graduating today, and I am proud. I look back and keep thanking God, teachers and mentors, mental health counselors at the University Health Services, my family and friends who helped carry me through till today. I thank Lin-Manuel for writing his songs, for helping me finish my Nina story, and for reimagining diverse representations on the Broadway stage. Madison, I'll miss your winters, your sunsets, your super frozen lakes, but I look forward to the future that the University of Wisconsin has prepared me for. I love this school with all my heart. My fellow graduates, as we proudly leave this campus, remember the dark moments that shaped us from the ground up, the good times that we are grateful for, and the person we became because of it. We're gonna teach them how to say goodbye one last time. Congratulations, Badgers.
Hello everyone, I am Siti Sarah binti Mat Tarmizi, one of the students of CFS IIUM currently studying in law course. It is my pleasure to be the moderator for today's program on behalf of the organizing committees. We hope you will learn a lot from our webinar today. Since everyone is here, we should get started. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Greetings to Madam Fatima Azara, advisor of the representative Hisbah Putri Balkis, our respective speaker, Ms. Lisanur Marini Muhammad Kamal, and all guests for tonight's talk. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to all brothers and sisters. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you, especially to our guest speaker tonight. We are extremely honored to have you here with us. Praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have been graced by the chance to gather in this momentous program. Hence, let us all recite a prayer that will be led by Sister Rajab. Please welcome, Sister.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Praise to Allah, the Lord of the world. peace and blessings upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions, and for those who followed his example to the Judgment Day. Allahumma ya Allah, on this blessed evening, in conjunction with this educational talk program, be grateful to Allah in favor of all the infinite blessings to us, your humble servant, to live a safe and prosperous life. We seek your blessing for the flawless progress of this program from the beginning to the end. Ya Latif, Ya Rahman, please bless us with your tawfiq and hidayat. Please guide International Islamic University Malaysia to greatness, peace, glory, and prosperity in this world and the hereafter. Make us responsible intellectuals. Granted us with a valuable knowledge that will be beneficial to mankind to gain rahmatan lil alamin. Make us your righteous servant that follow your commands and neglects the sinful act. Please forgive us for our wrongdoing. Ya Muzil al-Barakah, bestow peace to our beloved country, Malaysia. Preserve us from any threat and disaster. And to you, Ya Allah, we ask for security and prosperity upon us, our leaders, and our country. Bestow patience in us to face the challenges from you. Please accept our deeds and please reward us accordingly. Rabbana alayka tawakkalna wa ilayka anabna wa ilaykal masir. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin, Amin, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Before starting the ceremony, I read out a little background about our speaker tonight. Ms. Lisa Narmarni binti Muhammad Kamal is a 24-year-old scientist currently working at Petronas, a Malaysia government-owned oil and gas company. At the age of 22, she graduated with a major in geology from a highly prestigious university in the US, University of Wisconsin-Madison. It is one of the best universities in the world, where it ranked 23rd in the US and 32nd in world university ranking. Ms. Lisa here has won many awards within her journey in studying. One of them was the 2019 Hilldale Undergraduate Research Fellowship, the university's top research grant to pursue her studies in electron microprobe analysis. She was also the recipient of the On to the Future Award for underrepresented students in geosciences from the Geological Society of America. On winter commencement 2019, she was chosen as the student keynote speaker, representing graduates of her university. Her remarkable and inspiring speech has made her go viral throughout social media, touching everyone's heart by her story. Outside of her major, Ms. Lisa was also involved in performing arts, as in dancing, singing, and acting in theatre productions as part of Malaysian Night, the yearly celebration of Malaysian culture. Not only is she a beauty with brain, but also an astounding Malaysian representative to the world. Moving right along, I am pleased to invite our honorable speaker, Ms. Lisa Nomarini, to enlighten us with her talk and remarks regarding our topic, how is it essential to value our education? I would like to remind you that we have a Q&A session coming at the end of our meeting. All guests are welcome to write their questions on the chat box. You can ask both in Malay and English. Please, Ms. Lisa, you are welcome to take the floor.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Siti Sarah, for that very kind introduction. Assalamualaikum and good evening, everybody. I hope you all are in good shape, good health. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee, especially Sarah and Ms. Fatima, for accommodating this delayed engagement, since we were initially supposed to meet earlier on Thursday night. But due to side effects of the vaccine that I took, I wasn't feeling in good health to continue this talk. So I asked for a delay, but thank you for accommodating that. And I'm glad to be able to meet you now, feeling a lot better and excited to share with you today. So I'll be sharing my screen during this talk. So let's see. Okay, just checking. Can you guys see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, today we're going to be talking about why is it important to value your education. This topic can go so many ways, but the reason why I crafted it the way that it is in this sharing is because I wanted to impart advice or to tell you what I wish I could tell my younger self. There's so many things that I've learned throughout my journey in education, throughout my journey now as a working professional, that when I look back at my journey and look back at the times that I struggle, I wish I could tell myself that it'll be okay. Or I wish I could tell myself, these are the things that you can do to overcome your challenges a lot more easily. I struggle a lot in school and in university, but alhamdulillah, I got to where I am. And through those experiences, I became a much stronger person, a more, I would say, wiser than I was before. So these are the things that I hope to impart on you, young students. I was in your shoes not very long ago, so I hope we can still relate to each other. I'm not that old. So the topic of today's sharing session will be, why is it important to value your education? Earlier, Ms. Fatima ada pasang a video of my graduation speech, and I assume that's how most of you know me, from my graduation speech. During that speech, as you can see in the picture on the screen now, I was sharing my story of how it was difficult for me to finish my education. In the middle of my journey, I felt a loss in motivation. I felt burnt out. And I felt like I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to quit even. There was this one semester, I was 2 weeks away from finals, and I just wanted to give up. I wanted to drop all my classes. And I didn't, however, because I couldn't. It was too late to drop my classes anyhow. But I wish I could, because there was nothing left in me to continue. So when I was giving this speech, it was very emotional for me, because I was talking about this very difficult time in my life and how I dragged myself to overcome it. And if you remember, there was a part in the speech where I said that even if you just manage to scratch the bare minimum, that still counts. And that is still something that I live by until today. As in, on the days where I'm working and I cannot bring myself to do a lot, I just am grateful for even being able to do the bare minimum, for even being able to feed myself some bread or just get myself to take a shower. That still counts as something. So coming back to the speech, a lot of people were able to resonate with this, because I talked about a very common struggle, which was feeling a loss in interest, a loss in passion, a loss in motivation. And that's something that I want to dive deeper in the sharing session today. So hopefully it can benefit some of you and we can learn together. Okay, so before we get into the deeper details, just a bit more introduction about myself. As mentioned, I am a geoscientist. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin with a bachelor's degree in geology. For those of you who may not know what geology is, it's the study of earth science and rocks. So basically, my university coursework consisted of going outdoors on field trips, as you can see in this picture here. That was one of the field trips. We literally just go out camping and look at rocks, identify what kind of rock it is, what are the properties of this rock. And currently I'm working as a geoscientist at Petronas. And as a petroleum geoscientist, for those of you who don't know, the way that we look for oil and gas, they come from rocks. The oil is generated from a rock, from the organic materials in shale is another type of rock. It is being reserved in reservoir rocks that have porosities like sandstone or limestone. And it's all these things that bring together, geology kind of brings together. So it's exciting to be able to apply what I learned in university into what I'm doing now. But even so, after graduating for university, there were so many things I had to learn on the job, meaning to say that the basics I learned in university was helpful, but it wasn't enough or complete to be able to do my job as a geoscientist now. So during my free time, I also have a passion for writing, especially for poetry. I love performing spoken word poetry. This here on the top left is a picture of myself performing during a spoken word poetry competition back in 2017. Masa ni, it was the Causeway Exchange Poetry Slam, wherein Malaysia went against Singapore. And Alhamdulillah, I was able to be one of the finalists during that. So it's very exciting. Last year was also very exciting for me because I managed to get my first poetry book published. It's called Quiet Companions. And this picture here is a picture of me when I first found my book in MPH. And that was so exciting because I never imagined that I one day have a book that I wrote published on the bookstores, on the bookshelves of MPH. So it was really, really exciting for me. I know because I'm wearing a mask, so you can't see how excited I was. But yeah, that is my book. It's called Quiet Companions. Inshallah, if we have enough time at the end, I would like to share a piece from this book. So, okay, that's a little bit about me. Moving on to our sharing session today, why is it important to value your education? I wanted to give this sharing session in two parts. First, we have part one, why is it important to value your education? It's just my personal take and my personal perspective on it. But to be honest and to be frank, I will be spending a lot more time with you on part two, which is overcoming the challenges during university. Because in order to value your education, in order to be successful in your education journey, there's so many challenges as students that we face during university. And it's something that I hope we can kind of discuss together or talk about together. And, find ways to overcome it. Every challenge is unique and is different. And every student will have his or her own way to overcome these challenges. So that's something we'll be diving in during our talk. So part one, why is it important to value your education? For me personally, the answer is pretty straightforward, but the application, not so. My answer is education is your life compass. For me, there are a lot of times where education has been a guidance, has been has helped me navigate my life. It has gotten me to where I am at this point. Every part of my education journey led to the next part, led to the next part, and led to the next part, and to where I am now. And it's the same for everybody, even though our journey may not look the same. What I mean to say here is that whenever that we go through a life lesson or something that teaches us something, it guides us to the next part. And this is something that is pretty obvious to a lot of you. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you have experiences that you still remember the lessons that it taught you. So to be a bit more literal, my education journey started in preschool, but I skipped to SPM here just to kind of speed things up. But I took SPM back in 2014. I was a student of SMK Aminuddin Baki. It's a school in Kuala Lumpur, and it's where I took my SPM 2014. It's about 7-8 years now. Feels so long ago. Then after SPM, I was able to apply to a lot of scholarships, but the one that I was accepted to was the Petronas Education Sponsorship Program. During my time, the minimum requirement for this program was 7A+. So here, at this point, it was very apparent for me that I was so grateful to be able to apply to the scholarship, because without the ticket that I got from my SPM, it wouldn't have led me to this path. So that was one of the life compass that I meant after finishing SPM. And after getting through the Petronas Education Sponsorship Program, I was able to start my foundational studies in Taylor's universities. And it was a 1-year program where I did exams such as SAT, which is a university entrance exam for American universities, and also TOEFL exam, which is the English proficiency test. I would say it might be similar to IELTS or even MUET, because basically it tests your English for writing, comprehension, reading, and all that. So after all that, my journey in Taylor's University would determine where I would end up in the United States, because there were certain grades that you need to get in foundation to be able to apply to the universities in the United States. For me, I managed by the bare minimum, like I said, and I mean, bare minimum is different for everybody. During my sponsorship journey, the requirement for me to be able to fly to the United States was to get a 3.50 GPA. And it was not easy. I'm not going to say that education comes easy for me, or like straight A's comes easy. It does not. And it does not for anybody. I don't want to make it seem like it's easy, because I know it's not. My second semester, because like in 1 year, there was only 2 semesters. My second semester, I failed my physics exam during midterm. And there were so many marks. There were so many that I had to, when you fail a midterm exam, your carry forward marks is not that many, not that much. So during the finals, I had to like make up for so much of that. And I didn't even manage to do that. My physics was like my downfall during that time. Even though all my other subjects were strong, I got a C during my physics class in my second semester. And that really brought down my CGPA. But alhamdulillah, because of the other subjects, I was able to kind of bring it up a bit. During that final semester, my CGPA ended up becoming 3.51. And I tell you, if it was just any less than that, if it was 3.49, I wouldn't have been able to fly that year. So, all these things is like they lead to the next part of your journey. I was so grateful when I got that 3.51, and like, even though it's not a perfect 4 flat, it didn't even matter to me at that point. I just wanted to make it past whatever the bare minimum is. So it led me to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I spent 3.5 years there, obtaining a degree in geology. So when I say that I feel like education was my life compass, is because it would lead me down a certain path. If I had gotten 4.0, I probably would have applied to a different university. You don't know. I mean, I don't know. But I did what I could do in my situation during that time. And none of it came easy for me. And I would like to say this and be frank with you, because my education journey was parallel to whatever I was going through my life journey. So during school, there were so many struggles that I went through. During university, there were like a lot of things that I was going through while balancing my studies. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because we need to admit that a lot of us, we're human. There's so many things that seem easier said than done. As in to say, like, you just study lah. You focus, you masuk bilik, you pergi library, you study lah. Buat apa nak fikir pasal benda-benda lain? When in reality, benda-benda lain and studies and classes all merge together in your life, and it's so difficult to balance sometimes. The whole time I was in school, I was going through these points in my life journey. I moved houses a lot as a child because my parents got divorced. So when they got separated, we had to find different places to live. I moved houses maybe about 7 times as a child. So I don't know about any of you, but if you have moved houses before, it's a big life experience, especially for a child. You move homes, you change your environments. There are things that you used to are not the same anymore. So it's very difficult for you to kind of adapt or at least maybe later in life, it teaches you to adapt better, depends on how you see it. But I need to acknowledge that as a child, it was a struggle to move a lot because there wasn't a sense of stability in life. And some of the ways I learned to cope was I learned how to play guitar as a child. And if you see in this list, there are a lot of like positive and negative life events, because it's, your life journey is a jumble of different things. Throughout that journey, I gained friends, I lost friends. In university, I went through breakups that I will admit affected my studies, especially in physics. But I mean, I'm human. I cannot, switch off my emotions. So it was better for me that I learned to acknowledge my emotions in my life journey that would impact my education journey. During university, I also worked part-time as a student, in which I learned so much. I learned more than I would have if I didn't work part-time, because I was able to do research. I was able to meet so many people, do different things. And then I finally graduated university. Currently, I'm working as a geoscientist. I have adopted cats during the MCO to help me cope, and I love them. They're called Betty and James, after Taylor Swift's Folklore album. And recently I got engaged, alhamdulillah. So my point in sharing with you all this is, first of all, for you to kind of get to know me better as a human, and just not see me as like, oh, she's a graduation speaker, dia budak pandai. It's not just that. I struggle a lot in school, and I struggle a lot in my life. My point is, when it comes to valuing your education, I need you to understand that your education goes beyond your university degree. Even though your university degree, your education that you learn in classes, in syllabus that your lecturers teach you, that is valuable as well. But you also need to value the education that you get from life lessons, from personal growth, being outside of your comfort zone is what I mean, from your health, from listening to your body, from your mental health experiences, and finally, your passion. And what I mean by this is because your passion will teach you so much about life, so much about how you cope through your difficulties. And all of this comes together into a very wholesome education journey. It's not just about your university degree. And in no way am I saying that it's not important. I'm just saying that to look at it in a more holistic and wholesome way, you need to take these things into account. So what I wish to impart is that while your university degree is important, there's so many things in life that will teach you important lessons as well. Your education journey is not linear. And what I mean by this, simply put, is it's not just from start to finish. There's so many things that go in between. And like I just tell you, if I told you, oh, I graduated from this university, and I didn't tell you what went on, you will assume that, oh, I started university and I graduated. But in reality, I know myself and a lot of you are going through so many ups and downs in your journey right now before you reach the end right here, because no journey is linear. It's not a straight line. You will go through things that you did not plan. You will, have something in mind, but life will, hand you lemons and you have to make lemonade out of it. There's so many different things that will come. So that is the first part. I know I rambled a bit here and there, but I would like to keep this a bit more conversational as I can. But as I mentioned earlier, I want to spend a bit more time in part 2, which is overcoming the challenges during university. And hopefully, by understanding this, by relating to this, we can all together value our education and our life journey a lot better. So before I start, here's a meme that I really enjoy. It's the SpongeBob meme. What do you call a stress-free college experience? Imagination. Because we need to acknowledge that college is stressful. Before we go on, let's do a mood check-in with all of you students. Even the fellows, kalau nak join, you are welcome to do so. And what we're going to do here is go to Mentimeter. The link is here, menti.com, and use the code 8501876. You can use your phone or you can use your laptop and just simply answer this question. How does university make you feel? There's so many you can answer in one word or in, I think the limit was like 2 words, but one is also okay. And you're not limited to the choices. I made examples here. You can think of whatever that comes to mind. I just want to know, how does university make you feel? So take out your smartphones or just use your laptop and go to www.menti.com and use the code 8501876 and answer this question. I'm going to need 1 moment because my cat needs to, I need to open the door for my cat. 1 moment. Okay. So, are you guys in menti.com? Can I hear from the committee? There we go. See, we're starting to have answers now. So let's wait till more and more people submit their answers. Exciting, stressful, busy, lonely, kind of stressful, but enjoyable. Cry and happy at the same time. I feel you. That happened to me a lot. Surviving mode. Yes. Wow, there's so many of you in this. So you can see at the bottom, there, that's the number of participants joining the Mentimeter now. So I can see the answers from 52 different people now. I'll just let this keep going until the numbers stop increasing. So then I know that people are done submitting their answers. Okay. Geram sama macam kiss. Siapa yang geram ni? Okay. Okay. So now we've seemed to reach a pause. So let's talk about this word cloud that you guys have generated. When we use this mentimeter.com and generating this word cloud, I don't know if maybe some of you are familiar with it. When the words are bigger, it means that multiple people have submitted the same answer. So the words that are big in this screen right now, we see stressful, nervous, tiring, exciting, and hopeless, joyful, lonely. So the bigger words are the ones that a lot of people are answering. It means a lot of you are saying the same thing. You are feeling stressful, you're feeling nervous, you feel tired in college. And that's true. That is completely and 100% valid. But there are also positive notes. Some of you feel joyful. Some of you feel excited, peaceful. Exhausted but enjoyable. I love the balanced answer. There is cry and happy at the same time was also very balanced answer because life experiences come in good and bad. It's unpredictable. Some of you said rasa clueless. Tacut. I pun tacut dulu. Sekarang pun masih tacut. Tapi tak apa, kita hadapi sama-sama. Somebody said they feel numb. And that's sometimes I just want to pick at the answer when you say you feel numb, and I felt that way before. And I will admit that sometimes feeling numb is worse than feeling sad. Because if you're sad, at least there's emotion to express. But when I used to feel numb, or sometimes I still feel numb, it's so, frustrating because you just wish you could feel something. So whoever who answered that you are feeling numb, I hope you feel some excitement, a burst of life come to you in the near future, and you feel a lot better soon. Somebody answered there in surviving mode. And yes, that is super valid as a student, especially because you're just trying to get through the next class, just trying to pass this class. Fun yet tiring, another balanced answer. And I hope you do have fun during university because even though I struggle, I did have a lot of fun. Annoyed. What are you annoyed at? Are you annoyed at ODL or okay, cool. More to stress. Okay, so I'm just reading all these answers. And I'm wondering, did some of you, you had the limit to answer two answers for this word cloud. Did somebody else, when you saw what other people answered, did you see someone else's response that you could relate to? For example, if you answered, you feel awesome and stressed, but somebody said they feel lonely or excited, was it something that you could relate to? There are things here that you didn't answer, but you could probably feel the same way. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is that I'm trying to show you that you're not alone. When you feel nervous or you feel tired, you feel hopeless, there's so many other students struggling the same way. And the thing is, this struggle is such a common struggle, but it's still a struggle that makes us feel so alone. And that was something that was surprising for me when I realized, when I gave my graduation speech, and a lot of people seem to relate to it. And it was so funny because we're united by such a common struggle, but why does this struggle make us feel so alone? And it helps. One thing that I realized, it helps for all of us to start talking about it, for you as students to start talking to your peers, start providing support for each other and start opening up about how you feel. And it was one of the ways that I got through my university journey. So to anybody who answered more answers that were struggling or hope that were feeling tired or stressful or overwhelmed, I hope that you feel a lot better soon. And I hope that anything that I share could help even the slightest in your journey today. For those of you who answered exciting and fun and awesome, I hope you stay that way and help out your friends who are struggling. So thank you. I want to thank all 74 of you who answered this Mentimeter word cloud and participated. It helps me because we're doing a virtual talk. It helps me kind of connect with you. If I was in the audience, if we were in person, I would just, get people to shout out the answers. But this is how we're going to do it in this new normal. But yeah, it helps. So back to our sharing session. Just now we did the mood check-in. And that was because I wanted to kind of relate to the challenges that I personally felt in university. So when I was in university, I talked about losing motivation. I talked about feeling burnt out. I had struggles identifying what my passion was. I had family problems. My parents got a divorce, and then my mom got a divorce twice. With my stepfather. So there was so many family drama that was going on in the background. And I was also dealing with breakups. I mentioned earlier, I will admit that I love Taylor Swift a lot. And I really appreciate when she writes about her breakups because it helps me relate in so many ways in learning about relationships. But anyway, back to school. I was struggling with my concentration. I was unable to concentrate in lectures. And it happened to me so many times. I was zoning out in lectures. Sometimes the teacher or the lecturer would be talking and I would just be, daydreaming and like suddenly, and then, oh my God, what did I learn today? And I wasn't concentrating. And it was hard, obviously, because you need to make up for that time that you lost daydreaming and, catch up with your studies. Now, the bottom two is a bit more related to you in this current situation. I know a lot of you struggle with online learning because there's such a big difference between online learning and learning in person, whereas you lose a lot of the interaction that you usually get in person. But I appreciate the flexibility that online learning gives you, meaning to say that you can learn from anywhere and you can, you don't have to be as dressed up as you do in person. But let's just admit it is a challenge during university. And one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people face is the uncertainty of the future. For some students, they are doing a degree that they are passionate in. They know they want to work in that degree. And they know that where they want to go in life after their degree. It's not the case for all students. Some students have to do a certain degree because they didn't have a choice, because their parents told them to. Because for me, for example, geology was difficult for me because I had to do it. It was part of my scholarship program. And to be honest, the only reason why I did geology was because of the scholarship. If I was able to choose, I probably would have done something else. I probably would have done English or psychology, but I don't regret it. I just have to admit it was a challenge for me because I had to force myself, to study this degree. And now I'm working as a geoscientist. And it was also a personal passion challenge for me because I tried to find another path in career. I tried to change careers and I wanted to I didn't want to do geology as a job. But again, it was part of my contract because FYI, as a scholarship student, after you finish 5 years of your studies, you have to work 5 years to pay off your contract. It differs from different programs, but that's what it's like for my program. And to be very honest, there were so many times where I didn't want to continue doing geology. The science is cool. I love it, but there are other things that I'm more passionate about. For example, like writing, poetry, music, and other fun stuff. But it's okay. I don't regret anything that I went through in life. As I said earlier, I just needed to admit that, yes, it was a challenge. So for any of you who are currently doing a degree that wasn't your choice, or or it was initially your choice and you changed your mind, but it's too late, I want you to know that a lot of people are facing the same thing. You have to just stay strong and do what you can in the moment. The future will unfold itself naturally. You'll get there when you get there. There's no point in worrying so far into the future. Just focus on the now. So these are the challenges during university that I faced, that a lot of students face. I wanted to kind of discuss a bit more. Sorry. So yeah, when I talked about personal passion, the struggle for me when I didn't know what my passion was, I felt so unmotivated to do anything because nothing seemed interesting. I lost interest in what I used to do, what my studies were. And I started to ask, what is passion? Is it something that you're good at? Is it a hobby? In today's capitalistic world, a lot of people are monetizing their hobbies, and I start to think, is it something that I can make money out of? Like, for example, a lot of people are very good at arts and crafts and they're able to sell commissions for their art. And it's something that is that what passion is? I was questioning a lot of it. And I came to a point where I just admit that I don't know what my passion is. This was my, experience in university. where you are now at young adulthood, there's so many things you have yet to discover about yourself. And there's so many things that you will learn. So my answer to you and to my younger self, it's okay if you don't know what your passion is. Because if you're still finding your passion, what you can focus on, well, these are examples. Some people like photography and cycling. Some people like cats or reading. But back to my point, what I was saying, if you don't know what your passion is at this very moment, I want to share with you what you can focus on. Your passion is at this moment is investing in your growth, investing in your happiness. So how you do that is just a means of achieving that. What I'm trying to say is that it's okay if you haven't discovered a talent, or it's okay if you haven't discovered something you're good at. You don't have to be good at something to enjoy it. As long as whatever you're doing is contributing to your growth as a person, is contributing to your happiness, that counts. Whatever that you do is just a method of achieving growth, and happiness can be considered your passion. And even if it's as simple as, watching TikToks, I love watching TikToks. I will say I have a passion for watching TikTok, and it's fine with me because it makes me happy. And I learn so much on TikTok. Sometimes I'm just watching funny TikToks. But there's so many TikToks that teach you life hacks, that teach you DIYs, that gives you, relationship advice, friendship advice. Depends on which side of TikTok you're on. So it can be as simple as that, or it can be as complex as my passion is writing literature, if writing poetry, and it's something that, there's a spectrum whatever your passion is. It doesn't even have to be just one thing. It can be so many different things. So in the chat box, I know a lot of you are watching through the YouTube live right now. Drop in the comment below, what is your passion right now? As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a simple thing, anything that makes you smile, anything that, makes you happy throughout the day. So let me know in the comments, because I'm reading the chat box on my phone. So I just want to know what your passion is right now. So I see Sharifa's TikTok for life. That's my TikTok buddy. So yeah, like earlier I had image. Some people have passion for photography. Cycling is a very famous passion right now. I see a lot more cyclists on the road. Cat lovers, any cat lovers in the audience? Yeah. So as I'm going through the talk, feel free to share whatever your passion is in the chat box. Oh, Rubiato, your passion is watching trees. That's such an interesting, wow, that's so calming. Yes, Alice, sleeping is my passion. K-pop, maybe. It makes me happy, to be honest. Yeah, and I want to say that K-pop is a very important passion, because I love how people who love K-pop are very invested. They can memorize songs and dance moves that are, not even in our native language. And it's so cool, because even there you are, gaining education, because you are adapting to a new language, you're picking up a new language, and there's value in that as well. Crochet and cooking, but I can't cook in uni. It's okay. Inshallah, you can get your own kitchen soon. Watching movies, knitting and crocheting. I see cat lovers in here. Farhan's passion is driving. And I love that. I love driving because it's so therapeutic, especially if you're driving late at night and there's not many cars, and you just get to drive and listen to the music and think. K-dramas, K-pop and K-drama people, I'm so amazed at everybody who gets to learn Korean from just watching the shows and listening to the songs. Watching anime, similar to my how impressed I am at people who watch anime and they can pick up Japanese. I know this because my fiance loves watching anime, so he can understand anime without subtitles even now. Iman's passion is imagining completing my loads of work. I hope that it becomes a reality one day. Walking up and look to the sky. Rabiatul is a very nature person. Okay, so thank you for sharing with me what your passion is. So as you can see, the answers, like I wanted to say, it doesn't even have to be big answers. It doesn't even have to be like complicated answers. There's simple things in life that bring you pleasure and happiness that can get you through to the day. And in those passion, not only does it motivate you to, go forward in life, it gives you energy and it gives you kind of excitement in your day, but it also teaches you a lot of things. And that is part of valuing education that is beyond your university degree. So many people learn life skills through their passion. Like I mentioned earlier, language skills through K-dramas, through watching anime. That's foreign language skills. That's amazing how some people can pick it up. There are nature lovers who love watching trees and looking at the sky. And that is a way of learning, valuing how to regulate your emotions, because it really calms you down when you're out in nature. And like TikTok, as earlier as I said, not only does it make you laugh, but you can learn so many things because there's so many educational TikToks around. So I'm glad that a lot of you shared what your passion is. Thank you again for sharing. So now that we've talked a little bit about personal passion, I wanted to talk a bit more about growth, because part of overcoming university challenges is growing as a person. A lot of you now, if you're in your first year or in your second year, in your third year, whichever year you're in now, you're not the same person you were when you started college. You're not the same person you were when you finished SPM, you're just about to enter university. And why is that? Is because you have gone through a period of personal growth. Now, growth is a very abstract concept. It's hard for someone to kind of measure growth because you can't put a score on it. What do you get for growth? I got an A+, I got a B-. It's not very concrete in that sense. So this is a guide that I learned in university on how to measure growth. This circle, starting from the comfort zone, going out into the fear zone, into the learning zone, and finally into the growth zone, is a very good way for you to measure where you are in your life. So first of all, you want to identify which zone you are in now. Let's take learning a skill, for example. So for example, driving. When you first started driving, you were probably in the fear zone because you lack the confidence to kind of have control on the road. And it's easy when you are in the fear zone to be affected by someone else's opinion. Macam, kau ni drive macam apa ah? Macam, for me, I senang offended. I'll be like, yeah, sorry, macam tu kan. So you find excuses. When you step out of that fear zone is when you are entering the learning zone. And the learning zone is when you start acquiring new skills. You keluar your comfort zone to, pick up these new skills. Before this, you were comfortable driving depan rumah. You were comfortable driving around your taman. Sorry, I need to mute. You're comfortable driving around your taman. But afterwards, when you enter the learning zone, you kind of push yourself a bit more. Now you're a bit more confident driving on the highway. Now you're a bit more confident driving long distance. Before this, you can only drive within KL. And now you're driving from KL to Gambang and Gambang to KL balik. So that's when you expand yourself and you reach your growth zone. Your growth zone is when you are, you're out of your comfort zone. That's how you kind of measure where you are in life. And, it's very abstract, as I mentioned earlier. And the thing with understanding this growth zone is that it's a cycle. Macam after you dah habis your learning zone and you're in the growth zone, you dah confident drive from KL to Gambang, as I mentioned earlier. We would start again if you ask, oh, okay, how confident are you to drive a lorry now? How confident are you to drive a bus? You're back in the fear zone. Because of course, it's another different learning zone that you have to enter, different skills. You have to get out of your comfort zone in driving a small car to driving a big bus. So it applies to so many things in life. It applies to things like, for example, in classes, if you start out learning calculus 1, for example, so you're learning, you're in your fear zone because there's so many concepts that you have to remember, so many things that you have to understand, but then you push yourself into the learning zone, you acquire new skills, and then you conquer your objectives in the growth zone. But then you move on to calculus 2 the next semester and it starts all over again. So this kind of image or plot, whatever you want to call it, it helps you identify where you are and where you need to go. When you know, for example, when you know you're in the fear zone, you can ask yourself, do you want to stay here or do you want to gain more? And if you want to gain more, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to acquire new skills. You're supposed to get out of your comfort zones. And that is when you start growing and set your goals. So the thing with growth for me is personally, it's uncomfortable situations. You will realize that it's where you grow the most. When you are in uncomfortable situations, when you are in situations you are scared or fear, it's where you learn the most about yourself and the world around you. So feel free to screenshot if you want, but this is how I kind of help myself to kind of visualize my growth. Where am I going? What am I doing? How do I need to get there? So here, this is what I wanted to share with you regarding growth. Now, moving on from that, sorry, I'm skipping a bit abruptly, but on the topic of personal passion, on the topic of growth, we enter the topic of motivation because honestly, all of these things are so related because motivation is what gets you there. It's what pushes you and what drives you there. So I need to drink a bit of water. Okay. So for me, earlier when I said whatever that I put in the sharing session were things that I wish I learned earlier or things that I wish I could share to my younger self, is because later in life, I learned that there was a difference between motivation types. There's number one, intrinsic motivation, which in simpler words is internal motivation that comes from the inside. For example, you are motivated to learn because you are curious or because you want to have a sense of achievement, or you have interest in a certain topic, or you have passion in that topic, or it makes you feel proud of yourself, not in the boastful way, but then just, it makes you feel like you've achieved something. That's examples of intrinsic motivation, things that make you happy internally. And then there's also extrinsic motivation. What are the things that motivate you from the outside? For some people, it might be money. For example, if you get good grades, maybe you get an award, or you get, a potential career. You get praise from your parents, from your family, from your friends. And those are examples of extrinsic motivation. Now, I'm not going to say that one is more important than the other. As humans, we kind of rely on both of these intrinsic and extrinsic motivation to kind of drive us, to push us forward in life. For me personally, I have to admit that my degree in geology, I mentioned earlier, I struggled because it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I rely a lot heavily on extrinsic motivation. It was because I needed to maintain my grades for my scholarship. It was because I wanted to do well in geology so that I could get more, more research awards, more recognition. So what happened was that for me, I struggled because I was lacking intrinsic motivation. I didn't have internal passion. I didn't have, a strong sense of curiosity that came naturally. I had to force myself to study. So that's where, for me, I realized I struggled. And I wish that if I realized this earlier, I could find my intrinsic motivation and I could try to balance things out a bit more. So here's another part of my sharing session that I would like for you to share as well. What motivates you? Are you more intrinsically motivated or extrinsically motivated? Are you motivated by your grades, or are you motivated by your passion? Are you motivated by your interests or external praise from parents? There's so many answers that are not even in this slide that you can think of that I would love for you to share in the chat box, and just let me know what motivates you as a student. So yeah, thank you for sharing in the chat box. Okay, but as I wait for the answers to come in, I like to say that, as I mentioned earlier, when I realized that I was more extrinsically motivated in my education journey, it became difficult for me because there was a lack in balance. I wasn't intrinsically motivated enough. And that becomes a problem because there is such a thing called the over-justification effect. What is the over-justification effect? It occurs when an expected external incentive, such as money, prizes, decreases a person's intrinsic motivation to perform a task. So this, okay, it's a big chunk of information. Let's break it down. What happens during the over-justification effect is that if you are only externally motivated, for example, if you are motivated because of money, because of awards, there will come a time when all of that won't be enough anymore if you do not have intrinsic motivation, because it will decrease over time if there's so many external incentives. So I'll give you an example. If you're paid to do a job that you don't like, for example, anything, you're paid to isi botol air. For example, I pay you to isi botol air. So if I pay you, that's the only thing you can do in life. I pay you like how much? What, 1,000 ringgit, like 2,000 ringgit, 3,000 ringgit. It may seem like, oh, I'm getting this much money for doing something so simple. But later in life, you will find that as much money that you get in the world, you cannot find any intrinsic motivation to do this anymore because you don't have internal interests. At one point, all the money in the world will not be enough because you want to follow your passion. I hope I'm making sense. But there is so many research done on the over-justification effect. So if you guys want to just go on YouTube and look for the differences between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, you'll find more info about this. But basically, how it affected me was that I was so extrinsically motivated by scholarships, by grades, by praise, by awards. I wasn't intrinsically motivated enough. And that led to me feeling burnt out. It led to me losing motivation all the same, because at one point in my education journey, all the awards, all the recognition wasn't enough anymore to kind of push me to do what I wanted, to do what I needed to do. So that's where you need a balance between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Okay, the answers are coming in. Passion is money. Motivated by myself. I know somebody answered Shopee card just now. Dah delete I nampak tadi. But yeah, thank you for sharing your motivations. So that is something that for you students now that you are in your education journey, I want you to identify for yourself, what are your intrinsic motivations and what are your extrinsic motivation? Because we are, this is an Islamic university, I can talk about this because in other universities, I need to be mindful of other students who are of different religions. But since I'm talking to IIM students, intrinsic motivation to a lot of people also is the niyat, is the sincerity, the honesty for you to study for the sake of Allah. It is for you to gain knowledge, for you to search whatever knowledge within your university degree or outside of university degree for the sake of Allah. Because, you know, learning and gaining knowledge is a form of ibadah, especially if you use whatever you apply to help your society. So that is a form of intrinsic motivation to some students. Even for myself, it was something that, like, even though I didn't like this certain subject, I had to remind myself, okay, this is an amanah that I've been given by my family, by my sponsorship. I need to fulfill my degree. I need to complete my journey. And even if I don't like it, I'm just going to try and be sincere and do it for the sake of Allah. It was the one thing that, to be very honest, it helped me get through macam, yeah, because as I said before in this over-justification effect, if you're too focused on the worldly gains such as money or awards, it's not going to be enough. At one point, all the money, all the awards in the world is not going to be enough for you to continue what you want to do. If the motivation doesn't come from inside, you need a balance of both. I'm not going to say you don't need money. Everybody needs money. That's important. But there has to be a balance between what is motivating you to do one thing and another. So that's enough of me rambling on this point. My next point, we're going to talk a bit more about your energy in your education journey. Because how this relates to your motivation. When you are out of motivation, you're also out of energy to do anything. And it happened to me. When I was heavily reliant on external motivation, I was losing intrinsic motivation, and nothing was enough for me to move forward. I wanted to sleep all the time. I wanted to give up. Because if we focus on energy takers dulu, a lot of my struggle was like I was sleeping inconsistently. I was sleeping too much even. I was focusing a lot on the past. I didn't have a very good diet. Eating a lot of junk food takes away your energy to do stuff. No physical movement was for me. I barely exercise even today. So these are the things that kind of drains you, especially dehydration. Dehydration, if you don't drink enough water, you're not gonna have enough energy. And a lot of like mental energy takers, such as having fear or resentment or stress. So as students, you need to be smart at identifying where is your energy going. Are you draining energy or are you gaining energy? And how do you gain energy? On the left, from sunlight, from hydration, from nature. Like apa Rubiatul Adawiyah tadi. Suka tengok pokok, suka tengok langit. And it makes you feel calm. It recharges you as a human. Somebody said their passion was listening to music, and that also gives you energy. For me personally, whenever I feel down or whenever I feel like I don't have energy to start my day, I just switch on a very upbeat song and I like to dance in my room. So these are the things that as students, I want you to be aware of. Because in order for you to value your education, in order for you to have motivation, you need energy. And where is your energy going? This is something that, for me, when I was a student, when I was just, living life and not thinking, not reflecting on my life, I was feeling tired all the time and I didn't know why or how. I didn't know how I could make myself feel better. Once I started identifying what was taking away my energy, I learned how to replenish it. I learned how to recharge myself. And everybody recharges in different ways. You can go outside and look at the trees, or some people like to recharge by having a good meal or, taking a break, watching some YouTube. It depends on you. It's just important for you to be aware of where your energy is going. It is related to how it motivates you in your daily life. I have had points in my life where I had no energy to do anything at all. And I was feeling very unmotivated. All I wanted to do was just lie in bed, not even do my homework, not even attend any lectures. And I mean, it was a difficult time in my life. So I learned how to pick myself up back from there. Especially when I was feeling all of these things. A lot of students, especially if you're feeling unmotivated, I know it's difficult learning in a pandemic, especially when some of you have been restricted to online learning and you aren't able to meet your friends, your peers. It's so easy to feel stressed and pressured, especially anxious, bored even, or unmotivated. I know for myself or for students, it's so normal for you to just pasang lecture on your laptop and then, you know, leave it on your computer and then just be on your phone, or you're so bored you don't do anything. I'm sorry, Miss Fatima, it happens. It's not an insult to lecturers, but as students, attention span is so hard to come by, especially in a world where we're so used to watching screens every day. It's so tiring to stay focused on a screen. So all of these feelings is normal. Everybody goes through this. What you need to learn as students is how to manage your level of stress and anxiety, because it's directly related to your performance. Now, this is another very important chart. And for myself, when I started to realize this relationship between stress and performance, as you can see, sometimes when you have low pressure and low performance is where you realize you're so bored. You're not interested in doing it because nothing's pressuring you to do it. So you don't perform as well. Sometimes when there's moderate pressure, for example, oh, the exam is coming near, or we should do this project that's due soon. And it's a comfortable amount of pressure. So you are able to perform comfortably. It's even in the ideal zone. So the perfect amount of pressure will lead you to optimal performance. This is the stretch zone. So what I'm trying to say here is that as humans, even as students, you cannot be expected to perform if you don't feel slight pressure. For example, if your teacher gives you an assignment and she tells you, oh, this assignment has no due date, you can submit it whenever you like. There's no pressure. And for me personally, if an assignment doesn't have pressure like that, I don't know when I'm going to do it. There's no sense of urgency for me to do it. If you say that there's no deadline, or the deadline is at the end of the year, even though I have 12 months to do it, I will wait till the final week to start, because there is no sense of urgency or pressure for me to do it. So on the other side, if there's too much pressure, you will see that your performance starts going down, as you can see here. So this is an example of the opposite. If you are given an assignment and the assignment is due in 3 days and you don't have enough time, that's when your performance starts going down, because you're not in optimal performance zone. You are just focusing on, lantak pila apa, aku janji aku nak siap assignment ni, rupa macam mana pun tak kisah. Macam kalau teruk pun teruk, kalau sampah pun sampah, assignment tu janji submit. And some people become like that. Some people, including myself, I have times when you're so stressed out by the deadline, the quality of the work and the performance goes down. And if it's so bad, there's so much pressure, your performance can go down a lot more and you reach to a level of burnout. And obviously, this is not where we want to be. We want to be in the green zone, which is both comfort and stretch optimal performance. And what I mean earlier by saying that you need to learn to manage your pressure, you need to learn to manage your performance by identifying this, is because different people have different pressure levels. Some people, if they have a short deadline, they can work fine. But other people, they start to panic. They start to have anxiety. So you need to know yourself. And you need to know where you are in this chart. For example, if you have an assignment that is given, like, for example, 1 month due date. So in that 1 month, for example, when is the time that's going to give you enough pressure to start? For some people, 1 month is still too soon to start because there's not enough urgency. Some people like to start immediately because they feel like, the knowledge of the assignment existing is enough to pressure them, no matter how far ahead the deadline is. So for me, as a student, and even now as a professional, working professionally, when I started to realize what my pressure level was, what my comfortable stress level was, it helped me manage my performance better. Because for me, once I realized, I can work comfortably in this time frame. So that was when my peak performance would be achieved. So for you, students, in overcoming your university challenges, be aware of this. If you're starting to feel too pressured, you have to you realize, you are going down on this performance scale because you're feeling too much pressure, and it's not ideal for your performance. So that's one thing. Another thing closely related to understanding stress and performance is aiming for the flow state. And this is how I overcome a lot of my, when you're in a time period where you don't feel productive, is when I aim for the flow state. A lot of you, I assume, kalau if I was in person, I would just ask you to raise your hands. But how many of you feel struggle to be productive? Meaning to say that, you have a lot of things to do, but it's so hard for you to start. Then you end up just scrolling on your phone for hours and not realizing. So when I learned about the flow state, it's something that I mindfully try to achieve when I'm doing my work. What is the flow state, you may ask? So the flow state is when you realize that when you are doing something, and time just passes by because you're so in the zone. And like you can do something without realizing, tahu-tahu dah macam, dah 2 hours and you've just been doing work. Or sometimes when you kemas rumah, for example, when you clean your house, we just started like, let's start by sweeping the floor. And then suddenly you're mopping and you're vacuuming and then you're folding the clothes. And you're such in a flow state, tahu-tahu, dah sehari dah kemas rumah. So how to achieve the flow state, especially as students can this is, you have to be aware of the challenge level and the skill set that you have. For example, if the challenge is too low and you don't have the skills for it, you're not going to feel flow. You're going to feel very sad and very like you don't want to do anything because it's not challenging enough and you don't even have the skills for it. Some people, if you're given a big challenge, but also you don't have the skills for it, then you start to worry. Especially if it's so challenging, then you start to develop anxiety because it's something that you don't know how to do. On the other side, if the things are very low challenging, you have the skills for it, it's not very interesting, you become bored and depressed. It may lead to depression. I'm not saying it causes it. For example, but if it's low challenging and you have high skills for it, it can lead to relaxation. So where you want to be is in this flow channel, is a place where you're comfortably challenged and you have comfortable skills. For example, in control is when the challenge is, it's not too high, but it's also not too low. And you know you can do it. You have the skill set for it. The arousal zone, where you are more alert and focused, you have high challenge, but your skills are in between. So macam in this flow channel, you realize that when you do things that are, for example, like I said, kemas rumah earlier, when you're cleaning your house, it's kind of a medium challenge because there's a lot you need to do, but you have a lot of skills to do it. You know how to clean your house, you know how to wash dishes, you know how to do it. you know how to mop the floor. So it gives you control. It makes you feel happy and confident. And that's where you start being in the flow state where time just passes by. You're not realizing that you're achieving so much. So these are the characteristics that you need to have in order to achieve the flow state. The activity that you're doing must have clear goals and progress. Like kemas rumah, clear goals. I know today I want to sweep the floor, I want to lipat kain. So you can measure the progress. Okay, floor dah clean, kain dah lipat. So this establishes structure and direction where you want to go next. Secondly, the task must provide clear and immediate feedback, and it helps to negotiate any changing demands, allowing adjusting performance to maintain the flow state. For example, back to the kemas rumah example, you tengah kemas rumah, you tengah sidai kain, tiba-tiba hujan. What are you going to do now? So it's something that you have to have clear and immediate feedback. And lastly, you need to have good balance, and it's required good balance because you need to balance the challenge of the task and your skills for the task in order to have confidence. So back to the chart, like I said, bila you balance the challenge level and you balance the skills level, you can end up in a very happy, controlled, confident state, or arousal and alert focus state. This is where you want to be. So you can apply this flow state kind of mentality in a lot of things when you're studying. For example, when you're learning something new, it's very high challenging and you don't have the skill set for it yet. You don't have the skill set to solve the problems yet. So you might be stressed, or you might lead you to being focused when you gain more skills. For example, if you are revising something you have learned, so the challenge is a bit low, and you already have the skills for it. So you can be in control because you're just revising what you've learned. So when it comes to valuing your education, when it comes to overcoming the challenges in university, it's very beneficial for students to understand where is your flow state, what level of challenge is suitable for you, and where is your skill set now to overcome that challenge. So this is something that I learned to apply. Moving on. Last but not least, we're finally reaching the end. I feel like I've been talking forever. I hope you're still with me. Is having compassion. Earlier, we talked about so much about learning how to discover your passion, how to be motivated, and how to, practically measure your growth, your stress level, and your performance. But at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to compassion, especially compassion for yourself. And I say this because we were talking earlier about having energy, having motivation. It includes asking a lot from yourself. It includes asking yourself to get out of bed every day and, focus and just do things to fulfill whatever duties that you have. And it's hard to get by life without having compassion for yourself because it's the one thing that will keep you going. For me personally, having compassion for myself was being aware of what my mental health state was like. I'm very open when it comes to talking about going to counseling, going to therapy, and going to see a psychiatrist. I still see one now every 2 weeks. And Alhamdulillah, it was because of insurance that I was able to do it because because without insurance, it could be so costly. But there are also so many free resources that students can, especially in university, that you can reach out to. There are university counselors. For me personally, in my university experience, I went through individual counseling and group counseling for like 4 semesters, and it helped me so much because I learned so much about myself, how I cope, and how I learn. So this is especially important when you're trying to overcome university challenges. As earlier when I did the mood check-in with students on the Mentimeter, when I did the mood check-in with you and I asked, how does university make you feel? Because I wanted to understand where everybody is mentally right now. If you're feeling lonely or stressed or exhausted, tired, it's normal, but you need to reach out for support. either from peers, from family, or from professionals. For me, I took the initiative to go to university health services during my time, and alhamdulillah, it was completely free for students. So I got to I got to go to counseling services and just talk about everything that I was struggling with. And these were the things I was struggling with. I was so exhausted. I didn't have energy. I was losing interest. I was sleeping too much. I was having trouble concentrating in class. And I started detaching from my family and friends. And these were the things that I started to work out through going to counseling and going to therapy. So, all in all, when I talk about being compassionate, I urge you to be kind to yourself. And in a day, just do what you can, do your best, and thank yourself for that. There is a mantra that I go by, and it's called, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. If you're a grammar enthusiast, I'm sorry for the grammatical error, but it is from a movie called The Help, and they adopted a very southern way of speaking, and it was just this quote. It came from this nanny that was taking care of this child, and every day she would tell her, you is kind, you is smart, you is important, help to kind of encourage yourself a bit more. So all in all, that is how I survived university, and valuing my education, not just in university degree, but also life lessons that came from friendships and difficult things in life. I loved making music with my friends. I spent so many times studying and eating junk food with my friends. And you know, all these fun stuff. I could not have done it without my friends and my peers. So thank you. Last but not least, this is a quote from a poem that I love. It's instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it. And I hope I've achieved that today by sharing with you all. Thank you. So let's check in with the moderator, how we are doing on time. Siti, Sarah, do we have time? Are we short of time? Or are we just on time?
Thank you very much, Miss Lisa. We are just on time. That is a very enlightening and motivational talk. I can tell that the audience, including myself, certainly learned a lot from what is presented, aren't we? Now, I would like to open the floor for the Q&A session. You guys can put the questions on the chat box or in the YouTube chat section.
If we have more time, and if the questions are not coming in, I know a lot of you are tired after hearing me ramble. I can ramble more because I do have a poem to share with you from my book. And I don't mind if we kind of close out the night with that poem. So let's see how things go with the questions.
I have a question. I struggle a lot with in socializing with people, especially in communicating with strangers. I find myself like I don't trust myself. I feel like I'm not enough. Like I don't know how to say. I don't know how to put it in words, but I don't feel comfortable to talk with strangers. I feel like I want to be alone, but I don't want to be lonely. Like, how do I cope with that?
Okay. Thank you for your question. I think that my response to that, when it comes to connecting with strangers, first of all, I don't see a reason why you have to force yourself to talk to somebody that you're not comfortable with. But if you really have to, in situations where you have to get to know someone for teamwork or for interviews, anything, there's one thing that helps me connect with strangers is to realize that we always have a common ground. There's always something that connects you and the other person. And it's something that it can be a challenge for you to find out. It can be, but once you do find out, it becomes so much easier to connect to the other person. For example, I use an example. Maybe you love knitting or crocheting, and it's not something that's going to be very obvious because you're not, unless you bring your crochet out in public and just show everyone it's what you love doing. But the other stranger might have the same interests, and you'll never know unless you bridge that gap, unless you make that connection. So my advice to you is, if you feel like you struggle or you have a challenge to connect to strangers, find a common ground between you and the other person. So inshallah, it will help make that interaction a bit easier. And the one thing you have to do is start. Beginning is always the hardest part. So thank you for your question. I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. There is a question in the YouTube section from Sister Marini Zulkafli. What is your comment with this mindset of I code? A lot of people can also succeed without education.
Okay.
What is your comment?
For me personally, that comment usually says when a lot of people can succeed without education, they're referring to formal education. They're referring to like a lot of people can succeed without going to college, without doing their degree or without doing tertiary studies. And for me personally, I believe that's true. It depends on the person that you are. Some people, they excel in formal education and they excel afterwards as a result of that. And that's true too. My point is, we cannot undermine anybody's experience because some people, they don't have the opportunity to go to university. They don't have the resources that a lot of you are gratefully have to go to university. So they have to succeed no matter what in life without going through that formal education. What I mean to say is that everybody's experience will differ, and we need to value everything that people are going through. It's valid. When you say that you can succeed without formal education, why that is true is because in life, you're also learning. You're also educating yourself in life skills, in business skills in life, even if you don't go through formal education. Because even for me, my formal education was very important for me to qualify to get the job that I'm in today, which is a petroleum geoscientist. But even so, I learned so much on the job, meaning to say that even if everything that I studied at university wasn't enough, that I still needed to gain more knowledge on the job. So it's the same for people who did something else in degree and they change jobs later in life. For example, you do a degree in economics and then suddenly you change professions in life and you do something else. For example, suddenly you want to become a fashion designer. And that's not to say that your formal education was not important. It's just not relevant to what you're doing now. So anytime someone says that you can be successful without formal education, just understand it might be true to them, as long as they're not imposing that belief on you. They're not forcing you to agree with them. Just agree to disagree, whatever you want to believe. People have different experiences. It might be true for them, it might not be true for you, or vice versa. So for me, if somebody says to me they have an opinion that you can succeed without formal education, yes, it's true. I've seen people do it. But you're just gonna have a different journey, and that's just whatever your choice is, you know. Yep. That's my answer to that question.
Thank you. Another question on the Zoom chat box from Sister Nur Izati. Hi, and nice to meet you, Miss Lisa. I need to ask, what is your opinion about toxic productivity and how to overcome it?
Wow, toxic productivity. It's something that I didn't touch on, but I'm glad that you brought it up. Oh wait, sorry, toxic positivity or toxic productivity?
Productivity.
Okay. So toxic productivity, I'm not an expert in that sense, but from what I understand is that when you are doing so many things or you're so busy, but it's not the beneficial kind of busy. And for me personally, the best way to overcome being busy that's not beneficial is to stop multitasking. And hear me out on this. When I was in university, I learned that in class I took an educational psychology class, and we learned that the effects of multitasking was actually bad for productivity. It was because if you're doing so many things at once, your brain needs, first of all, it needs to keep tabs open for everything that you're doing. I think I saw a TikTok and once yang cakap apa, kalau if your laptop has so many tabs open on your browser, nanti dia jadi slow. And that's the same with your brain. If you're doing so many things at once and you have so many tabs open, you become very slow. What happens is that, for example, you're doing task A and then you're multitasking doing task B. When you need to go back to task A, you need to rewind and remember again, what was I doing? How do I start? And then restart. And then you keep juggling like that. So you become busy. It means you spend more time on it, but it's not effective. It's not effective productivity. So I don't have that many advice, but if I have to say one thing, if you're avoiding toxic productivity, focus on one task at a time and avoid multitasking as much as you can. Yep, that's my answer to that question.
Thank you again. On the YouTube chat box from Sister Nisa Kistina. Hello, I want to ask, since we are online and staying at home far from friends, how do you fight feeling lonely?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Nisa Kistina, if you're going through that. And it's definitely difficult because it's hard doing things alone, and we have to admit that. But in this situation, just do whatever that you can to stay connected with friends and family. If you can, for example, I know some people work very effectively in Zoom study groups. We need to say that you don't even have to discuss with each other. You don't even have to open your mic. Sometimes just open your camera, and people like to study together in silence. For example, you set a time with your friends. Okay, malam ni jom revise pukul 9 sampai pukul 10, for example. So semua orang masuk Zoom. Tak nak cakap pun tak apa, you can revise different subjects, you can do different homework, but it makes you feel like you're with your friends, you're doing things together. It also keeps you a bit accountable because if you're alone, it's so easy to just give up and just scroll on your phone baring kan. But if you buka Zoom and study with your friends, you see other people studying, then you're a bit more motivated to study yourself. So it's one of the little things that you can do in this new norm. But I do hope that in the future you get to reunite with your friends and start going back to campus again. Are you all studying from home right now, or dah masuk campus balik?
Some of us dah masuk campus, some of us at home.
Okay, so for those of you at home, I hope you rejoin your friends on campus very soon.
Okay. From Sister Nurul Iman, how do you cope with laziness? PS, your way of speaking is so sweet.
Okay. Laziness. I love sharing what I learned about this because I learned about it in counseling, in mental health counseling. At one point, masa I was feeling burnt out, and then my counselor was asking me, why do you feel this way? And then I answered her, I don't know, I'm just lazy. But so then she helped me understand, you, but sometimes when you're not doing something, it's not because you're just lazy or because you are dumb or you're stupid. There's something else that is making you procrastinate. And a lot of the times it's anxiety. When earlier I was talking about the how your stress is related to your performance, you can see that your performance will go down if you're feeling too stressed out. So a lot of the times when you think you're feeling lazy, it might just be because you're feeling anxious or you're feeling too stressed to start doing something. And what helps is that when you start feeling this way, help to identify what is making you anxious. For example, if it's a certain essay that you have to write, if you feel that the essay is so big or so long, sometimes it makes you procrastinate and you don't want to start because you just don't know where to start. So if you're feeling lazy, I have to tell you that there might be an underlying reason to that. It's not just because you're lazy for no reason. So find the reason what is making you procrastinate and overcome that first. Sometimes when you're assigned with a big assignment, it helps to just, for me, how I do it is I just have a notebook or notes on my phone. I just list down anything related to that. For example, if I need to kemas rumah, I suka guna kemas rumah punya example. And I think, oh, I'm so lazy to kemas rumah. But honestly, it's just because there's so many things to do and it makes me feel anxious. But then I start making a list. I have to do this, I have to do this and this. So as long as I macam kata I ada 2 bakul baju nak lipat, as long as I lipat 1 bakul, it's okay. Macam tu. So start a list, start somewhere. You're not lazy. There's a reason that is stopping you from being productive. So, okay. I always keep rambling off when I'm answering questions. Okay, that was my answer.
Let's have one last question before we end the session.
Okay.
From Sis Yasmin Hanan. Assalamualaikum, Miss. I want to ask, if we ever feel burnt out and exhausted, do we need to reach out for help, or is it bad if we keep it all to ourselves only? I hope you understand what I'm trying to ask.
Wait, sorry. It's in the chat box. And want to ask if we're feeling burnout. Is it bad if we keep it to ourselves only? I hope you understand. Okay. If you're feeling burnt out, a lot of people need time to process what they're going through. Some people, if you don't feel comfortable talking to another person, some people find solace or find comfort in writing about it. As long as you release and you express whatever you're feeling, I wouldn't worry about you. But if you're keeping it to yourself and you're bottling it up and you're not letting it out through writing or through making videos, through anything, that's when I would worry about you. Because when you bottle so many things up, there's going to come a time where you can just explode, you know. So if you're feeling burnt out and exhausted, find things you can do to cope with that emotions. You have to, if you're not comfortable talking to someone about it, write about it or make a voice note. Just talk to yourself, you know, as long as you get your thoughts out and your emotions and your feelings out. If you're feeling comfortable, do reach out for help and talk to people, because we live in a society, we live in a community, and people in communities help each other, especially in times when you are struggling. So make use of that, make use of your community and help each other. So it will make you feel better, inshallah, if you reach out to the right person, to somebody that you trust, to somebody that loves you and would like to support you. So I do encourage you to reach out, but it's not easy for everybody. And if you feel uncomfortable, start with writing or expressing your emotions some way, somehow. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Miss Lisa, for answering all the questions. I think we've taken enough of your time already. Could we could we have the you can recite the poem?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay, that is how we shall end the night. I'll share my screen again. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Okay. The poem that I'm going to share with you is called Becoming 19. It was one of the first few poems that I wrote for this book, Quiet Companions. And I wrote it when I was 19 for my 19th birthday. I was going through a time when I was feeling very lost and I was trying to understand who I was. So it's a lot about growing up and discovering myself. My intention to share this with you is because a lot of you are 19 or just turned 19, about to turn 19. It may be something that you can relate to. As you grow up, you will go through so many things that will help you discover who you are and just go through it. So this is the poem Becoming 19. They say you either sink or swim. Well, I've learned that some waters you just can't swim. But sinking sounds so subtle. I prefer the term drowning. In protest, it is kicking and screaming till your last breath. There's something beautiful about the rage of a 19-year-old girl when she's in between the experiences she's collected and the years she has left to grow, in between her wisdom and her naive heart, in between her acceptance and her frustration. She does not know what to do with her hands. Maybe when I'm older, I will learn to sink without a sound. When I'm grown up enough to know better, but right now I don't know better. Not when I feel like I haven't thought enough yet to just give in. When my lack of understanding makes me fight only harder for the things I believe in, for the ones I love. The fight adults tell me is a sure loss. I got no chance against it. Well, fine. I'll take that loss, but not before I'm done giving it my all. Not before the sword in my hand falls due to my own strength waning. When I hear that clatter on the ground, I'll surrender to sinking and to losing the fight. But if that's the case, I won't just learn loss in theory, from the stories they tell me, from the precautionary steps they teach me to take. I'll graduate the course with practical credits. It is knowing I didn't just choose safe over sorry before understanding what it is I'm going to have to be sorry for. It is knowing that I've messed up so badly, but putting the broken pieces together and making something new. It is surviving with scars on my heart and living with the stitch marks to prove that I made it. Accepting with cuts and blisters on my hands from holding on too tightly to the things I later learned to let go. It is fear of becoming like my mother, only to end up becoming like my mother, but realizing that there is nothing wrong with that because she is both beautiful and strong, and I will only learn to walk with my chin up, heart braced against the world, fearless. I'll look back and know that I didn't just disappear like some kind of magic trick. I didn't just slip through the trap door when no one was looking. I existed quite significantly, quite the way I wanted to. And they'll remember me brave, even though stupidly brave, but that's okay, because stupid I can learn to fix. But brave is something I'll always want to be, really. It won't even matter if no one remembers me, at least I'll remember me. And maybe that's all I'm asking for. There's something beautiful. I believe that there's something beautiful about becoming 19. Thank you. So that is the poem, Becoming 19.
That is, I don't know how to say. I really love that poem. I'm gonna put that in my card list.
Yeah, you can get the book on Shopee or in MP3. So I'm glad I got to share that with you guys. A lot of it was about me learning learning to pick my battles. That's the correct word for it lah. There's so many things in life that is going to come at you. If you spend your energy trying to fight everything, you're going to exhaust yourself. So learn to pick your battles.
Thank you. Thank you again. I really love your, I don't know, I really love your speech. Okay, let's have a photography session.
Okay, sure.
Sister Raja, you can screenshot. I will count it. One, 2, and 3.
Wait, Jaja.
Okay. 1, 2, and 3. Are you done? Uh, 1, 2, and 3. Okay. As the saying goes, to every beginning there is an end, and every end is a new beginning. We have now come to the end of this program, and to a new beginning we shall venture on. We hope that this has been an eye-opening experience for everyone. May the information gained from today's program benefit us all, inshallah. Once again, thank you everyone for blessing our event with your presence. We truly appreciate it. On behalf of the organizing committees, I would like to apologize if we have made any mistake throughout this event. Let's end our program with Tasbih Kifara and Surah Al-Asr. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi